So schemaless in Oracle. So how do you go schemaless in Oracle? Um, so as you know, if you have to insert data into Oracle, the first thing you have to do is define a table with the columns. So it's a predefined data structure or a predefined schema, right? And if you ever have to make changes to it, so let's say you want to bring in new data values, then you will have to go back and change the table, add the new column, and then bring in the data, right? So that is, so the data is constrained by the schema, right? So let me explain this. Let me demonstrate this so it's easier. So I'm going to create a table called emp. So let me first drop it because I created it previously. Now I'm going to create this table called emp. It has 3 columns, an ID, first name, and last name. And I'm going to insert the values in it. So I inserted 3 values. So let me do a quick select. So you see 3 values, the ID, the first name, and last name. Now let's say I want to bring in a 4th column, which is salary in this case. And let's see what happens if I try to do it. It obviously fails because it says too many values, which means I'm trying to bring in 4 values instead of the 3 columns that I have in here, right? So in order to make this work, to bring in this 4th column, I will have to add the new column. So let me add the new column here. So in this case, I'm going to drop the table again because otherwise it's an alter statement. But in this case, just to keep it simple, I'm going to drop it and then recreate the table here with the salary column in it, right? Now I insert the 4th value. Now if I do a select, right? Now if I try to insert the first record that I did, let's see what happens, right? Now it says there are not enough values because there are 4 columns and I'm only inserting 3. The next option is I can actually insert a null value, so no value, but I have to provide some value in here to make this work, right? Now it works. Now you should see 2 rows, 1 with salary and 1 without salary, right? So this model is not flexible. So this is a schema based model, right? So every time you try to bring in new values, you have to change the data structure itself. Now JSON alleviates that problem by actually making it more flexible, which is one reason why the NoSQL databases have taken off, right? It allows you to actually go schemaless, or in other words, it makes the schema flexible, right? So I'm going to demonstrate this. And the other big advantage using JSON within Oracle databases, you can now combine relational columns with non-relational JSON-like structure, right? Which is very powerful because it opens up a whole lot of use cases, right? Which was not previously possible within relational databases. Now, I'm going to create a new table. Pretty much, it's going to store the same kind of information as in the previous table, but this time in a very different data structure. Now, let me drop this column. It's called mJSON. I'm going to create the table. Right? It has only 2 columns this time. It has an ID and employees, right? But I'm going to store a whole bunch of values in this employee columns, right? Now, the last statement here actually is a constraint. It actually says that this column, the employees column, is actually constrained by JSON. You can actually create a table without it, but it's better to add it if you're creating a JSON column, because if you ever try to insert a JSON that's not formatted correctly, this constraint will throw an error, and that's how you know that your JSON is not valid, right? Now, So in this case, I'm going to insert this row in here, this record, right? So it has column 1, and this whole thing is column 2, which corresponds to this employee column, right? But within that text, the JSON document, I'm actually defining the columns in here. So I'm saying this key employee has these 2 columns in it, which is very similar to this data structure, right? Which is the first name and last name in here, right? Now, once I've done that, I'm going to actually, let me do a select statement. So the way you select this data within a JSON enabled column is you have to use this dot notation, right? So the emp, so I say select emp belongs, it's an alias for this, the table itself, right? The employees is actually the column name, which is this column, right? That column, right? And then the employee is actually the key, right? And then the first name and last name in this case, is actually the key for the value. So it's a nested data structure, but JSON gives you that flexibility to actually create different types of data structure in it. So you can nest these key value pairs in it, or you can actually have arrays in it. So there are many different possibilities, but I'm trying to keep this simple to explain this process. But you could actually model this in very many different ways. You don't even need this employee. You can just have first name and last name in here, but this makes it easier to actually refer or actually make a good data model, right? Now, so the first name and last name are the values that I'm referring here, right? So when I run this, you can see that it's a select statement, which is very nice, right? Now it actually brings these 2 values back in here. Now here's the next big advantage, right? The advantage is now, let's say I want to introduce a new column in here, new value, right? I don't have to make any changes to the data structure. The data structure remains the same. You just have the same column employees, but I can actually insert this new value as a new key value pair, right? So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to insert this. I'm going to run this insert statement, right? And it works, right? And then if I do a select, let me copy this from here to make it, right? So in this case, what I've done is I have the first name, last name. I'm now referring to the salary as well, right? Which is the new column, the new value I introduced. Now there you go. So you can see that I have first name, last name, and salary, right? Now this makes this whole process schema-less, or in other words, make it more flexible schema. There is a schema in here, right? Because you're defining some data, some kind of a structure to it, because that's the only way you can refer it back somehow, right? But now this opens up a whole new sets of use cases. But as I said, you can actually create another table, right, and actually do joins. Okay, so hope that helps with understanding how you could use JSON in Oracle and actually combine it with the existing relational model.